Hey, this is John Dawson of Patio Daddy-O Barbecue in Boise, Idaho, and I've got it locked on the 50,000 gigawatt blowtorch of the internet that is Barbecue Central.
Yay! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Welcome to the Really Big Barbecue Central Show. This is a show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling, originating, as we do each and every week, from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire, fun, and frivolity show. If you want to jump in on the show's fun and frivolity here this evening, you can do it through phone calls and emails. Here's your info.
You can get in touch with the show by calling 216-220-0966. Email Greg at the BBQCentralShow.com. On the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you get the newsletter, which you can sign up for over at the main website as well. A quick email address, and as my thanks, homemade barbecue sauce recipe, the one that I use every time I make barbecue. I love it. People have told me I should bottle it, but I'm not going down that road ever. So don't worry about it, but I will give you the famous, almost famous recipe. Everybody loves it. You'll love it. You'll make it. You can claim it as your own. It's just my way of saying thanks. Anyway, coming up on the show in about 12 minutes from now, he is a rapidly growing, oh boy, that's bad English. One of the most he's the guy we love having on the show, and you like it too. He is the contributing barbecue editor to Southern Living magazine, and he is one of only very few doctors that we have here on this show. Robert Moss joins me once again, creator of the Q Sheet as well. And we'll be talking about chain barbecue, but we'll also be talking about books. This is barbecue book season, spring leading into summer. We had Myron Mixon on last week. We had Mike Lang on a couple weeks before that. The list goes on. We've given away some books, which I have autographed personally and sent out to the winners of said books. So we'll talk to him about the season of barbecue books and what that looks like at this point. And then, if time allows, we will get into some Hall of Fame talk. Robert, of course, is on the names committee over there at the Barbecue Hall of Fame. So we'll talk about some of the 9 that are on the list. And as you know, well, I'll get into that here in just a minute. So plenty to talk about, Robert, with. Looking forward to him in about 11 minutes from now. Then 35 past the hour. It's fourth Tuesday of the month, and you know what that means in the first hour. A regular visit from Derek Riches from DerekRiches.com. And just when you thought the bristly barbecue journalist can't stand to be more bristly, he goes and releases a post on his blog yesterday. Maybe it was earlier today. Maybe it was a couple days ago. And I'm here to tell you it's lighting the world on fire. It's the 10 most popular barbecue and grilling websites. You may be surprised at the list. I have a number of questions to ask him about the list. Initially, I was going to be leading off with some Hall of Fame talk with him. I'm not sure exactly how I want to take that conversation. We might just attack the 10 most popular barbecue and grilling websites list up front and then see what we have in the remainder and fill in from there. If we have any remainder, who knows? It's going to be a hot topic, no pun intended. Then we'll move to the second hour. The fourth Tuesday of the month in the second hour brings a visit from the embedded correspondent, yes, now, where we will have touched on some Barbecue Hall of Fame talk in the first hour. we will really immerse ourselves in BBQ Hall of Fame talk in the second hour, and especially the first segment of the Embedded Correspondence, where Rusty Monson, Doug Scheiding, John Solberg, guest correspondent Jeff Rice from Wisconsin, myself, 5 of us, will be talking about all of the finalists on the BBQ Hall of Fame list, 3 of which will make it in tomorrow. And we will decide who we will put in the BBQ Hall of Fame in advance of the announcement tomorrow to see how right or how wrong we really will be. Last year, we were very wrong on a number of accounts, maybe one right. But we were very wrong. So we will discuss Hall of Famers, potential Hall of Famers in the first segment, and then, notwithstanding that, in the second hour, we will, of course, get ready for month 2 and round 2 of American Idol BBQ Central Show edition. As we all know, last month, Doug Scheiding was politely asked to get the hell out of here through your votes. However, that means myself and Rusty Monson from the great city of Utah and John Solberg from Michigan and Jeff Rice, returning champion of Season 1, will all be here with new songs, and we are ready to sing at best mediocrely, which is not a word, perhaps below mediocre, definitely neato, if you will. So stay tuned for some incredibly average singing, and if you are wondering, all of the judges will be in studio, and as I had posted on Instagram, in studio, extra sassy and extra sharp with criticism. So anybody that's remaining in this competition, put on your Kevlar vests and your hate blockers and your suits of hate blockers and everything, because it could be going down tonight. Don't worry about it. Follow me socially, of course, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snappers at BBQ Central Show. For a live video feed of the show, you can go to Facebook and Twitch /BBQ Central Show, also on YouTube /RD Rempe. Programming note, be sure to join me for a special edition of the BBQ Central Show tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern as Emily Park and myself reveal who will be making it into the BBQ Hall of Fame class of 2021. We will also announce the 2 legacy members as well, so a total of 5 going in this year. And it's all available tomorrow live.
We'll do it live.
At 3 p.m. Eastern.
Do it live.
We will do it live. It's not pre-recorded. It's all live all the time. So join me at 3. And then, notwithstanding that, I've been able to use that phrase twice in the open. At 4 p.m., if you have this thing called Clubhouse, which I'm trying to get my head around, you can join me on Clubhouse. Search for me. At 4 p.m. Eastern, we will go live on a Clubhouse where we can go ahead and discuss who has made it in, who you think got schneided, who deserves to be in, and this is why. We'll do it all. It doesn't get recorded, so if you want to jump in and just take somebody to task, no holds barred, go ahead. It can't be used against you. Only anybody that's in there listening live can hear it, and as I tested it out last week, 0 of you cared. But I'm putting it out there now. I have it on my Facebooks and Instas and Twitters and social media platforms, so maybe I can garner 1 to 2 folks that have a interest in talking about it after the fact. We say hello to first-time listener Kevin Evans. That's hard to say if you're not paying attention. Some listener feedback from shows last week and in past. Scott Hen writes, or Henny, my friend, I listen to your podcast as I mow the lawn, and I must say I love the interview with Susie Bullock and excited for the next time, as I understand she'll be a quarterly guest. You have an art for finding great guests and asking questions that bring out such quality material in the show. Thank you very much for what you do and for our entertainment. Take care, Scott. Scott, thank you for writing in. Tim in Georgia, Greg, had no idea that Myron wasn't a complete jerk-off. In fairness, I have only seen him on TV, and he seems to be cocky, to say it nicely. Hearing him on your show Tuesday night has definitely given me a different perspective on what kind of person he is. Thanks for having him on. Thanks for a great show, Tim. Tim, if I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I would be very rich. And believe me, and I've asked Myron on the show before, If people only saw you on television, what should they think? And he says they should think I'm an a-hole. But he knows what he's doing. He's putting himself over. He's playing a gimmick. But you see the real Myron when he shows up here on this show, for example, or other things that he does. Sean in Idaho. Greg, I can't believe you booked Bill Oakley on the show last week. Do you have any idea what kind of talent he is? Wow. The guy wrote The Simpsons in the best seasons. I can't believe it. Great job on whoever books the show. Please get him on again soon. Regards, Sean. Oh, who books the show? Well, hold on a sec. I will go ahead and pull that person right out. Wait a second. That's me. I book the show. Is there some misconception that I have a staff of writers and show bookers and researchers? The embedded correspondents do give me bits, do some due diligence for me. This show is me. I am the show. Trust me when I say if I decide to quit the show dies instantaneously. There isn't somebody else in the wings waiting to fill in for me. Like, I heard Rush Limbaugh's show. There's a show. Somehow he's still doing a show. He's dead, and we say that with peace and love. But there's a guy who talks about things and then finds old Rush Limbaugh bits and then plays them. Even in death, a prolific broadcaster. I could only hope to be a success. Robert Moss is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just 1 second. I'll talk to you quickly about Pits and Spits. Since 1983, they have been handcrafting smokers and grills in Houston, Texas. In that time, establishing itself as a premier brand of high-quality offsets, yes, and high-quality pellet cookers. Pits and Spits setting itself apart by using heavy 7 and 10-gauge stainless cooker, fully welded construction that you can feel with the use of every unit, and a 304 stainless roll-top lid and front shelf on every single smoker. So why does it matter? Well, by using higher quality materials, you get a smoker that reaches and maintains temperature, allowing you to worry more about the meat than the heat. By providing a fully welded smoker, you don't have to worry about grease or smoke leaking out of the barrel, or about that grill rattling apart as you move it through the backyard. And by using 304 stainless, you're getting an heirloom quality piece of equipment. So, hey, figure out where you want to stick it after you're gone. Now, where some companies are focusing on low-cost providers, Pits and Spits focuses on craftsmanship and using quality materials and electronics that you can trust. Are there cheaper ways to do it? Of course there are. But their steel suppliers are giving you material that can be used in any kind of condition. Their controllers are made right here in the States, giving them unimpeded transparency to the programming. In short, Pits and Spits has a dealer network across the country. If there isn't one near you, give them a call at the shop, 844-650-6250, and ask for Coy. Why don't you? Or Ryan, if you want. He owns. Whether you're a backyard grill master or a competition team, check them out online, pitsandspits.com, all spelled out, or check their pits in the wild across social media where they're handled at Pits and Spits. Dr. Robert Moss is on call and ready to jump in the barbecue ER. Stick around, we'll be right back.
You're listening to the #1 most downloaded barbecue and grilling podcast anywhere. The Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by the BBQ Guru, creators of automatic pit temperature control devices, sellers of ceramic cookers with built-in power draft fans, accessories to make your barbecue and grilling life easier. Visit them online at bbqguru.com. Or for more information, call them at 800-288-GURU. The Barbecue Guru continuing to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. We say hello to first-time listener/watcher Donnie Stroud. Welcome in. You have tuned in for a promising segment here, Donnie, so hang with me. Because my next guest is the contributing editor for Southern Living magazine, friend of the show. We race to the hotline and welcome back Robert Moss. Hey, Robert.
Hey, Greg, how's it going?
I am fabulous. Appreciate you making time for the show as always, and we have a ton of content to get through here. First and foremost, are you a medical doctor?
I am not a medical doctor, so please don't ask me on that airplane or anything to resuscitate anybody. No, mine's a PhD in English, so it's a.
Does that put you in a weird spot if somebody was
PhD.
on a plane and said, "Is there a doctor in the house?" Do you?
I just don't say anything.
You
I don't say anything.
Just sit there and say,
Yep.
"Well, I hope there's a doctor." All right, fair enough.
Yep.
One of the highlights of our conversation this evening is going to be a topic which we'll call chain barbecue restaurants. And you did quite a bit of research. You published an article all about it. You've talked about it. And I find it interesting because I think there is what you could call a stereotype or a stigma attached to the terms chain or the words chain barbecue restaurant. And in some instances, perhaps well-deserved. In other instances, not so much. So let's, I guess, first look at it from a high level. Do people assume the chains are independently owned and or franchised at each location or not?
Well, I think different people assume different things because there really is no formal definition of what a chain restaurant is. I actually spent a little time trying to dig through various regulations and things, and the best I could find were some very ambiguous wording. So there's not like there's any kind of legal definition or anything of what a chain is, or even an industry definition. The term actually goes all the way back to the 1920s, and it started off with chain stores. If you think like the Piggly Wiggly grocery store was one of the first chain grocery stores, but everybody has a very different definition of it, and it depends upon who you ask. But I think there is sort of like the neutral description of what a chain is. Obviously, more than one. That one would be a link, so you have to have at least two, I guess, to make a chain. But beyond that, there is definitely the connotation of a chain, which is people. A lot of people would have a negative reaction to that, which is to say, I don't eat at chain restaurants, and whereas other people, I don't think they even think about it. So I think everybody probably has a little bit of different definition of what a chain is, and whether a chain is a good thing or a bad thing, to either be going and eating at, or if you're a restaurateur, if like you want to say, yes, I own a chain, or no, I'm not a chain.
Is there any muckery when the term franchise is thrown in? So you can have, at least to my knowledge, one of the most successful franchises out there is McDonald's. People buy McDonald's, blah, blah, blah. But then you have other chains out there that are, let's call them corporately owned or core locations, corporate-owned retail, which is a whole different thing. That means that it isn't something that you or I could buy into. It's set up like Starbucks, I think, are all corporately owned.
Yeah,
stores.
Starbucks is all corporately owned, as are like Chipotle, I believe the Chipotle Mexican restaurants. And in the barbecue world, I think Mission Barbecue, which is a pretty large chain now, but all those stores are corporately owned. I think a lot of people do associate franchising with chains because they sort of go hand in hand. If you want to have 20, 30, 40, 50 restaurants across the country, it helps if you have franchisees who are actually, investing and building and all that. But that definition, a franchise is not necessarily a chain. And there are some instances where there are restaurants that have like 2 or 3 locations. One is owned by the original founder and they franchised, 1 or 2 other ones. I don't know if you would call that a chain necessarily. I think a chain, is definitely larger than that. It's sort of like that kind of old definition of pornography. I can't define it, but I know what it is when I see one. Which works for me.
We're talking with Robert Moss here on the show. RobertFMoss.com is his website. You can also sign up for the Q Sheet through that website as well. Comes out over the weekend, and really great reading, so you should go and sign up for that if you're not already here while we're chatting. In regards to more of this franchise and chain stuff, is there or what are the benefits to being under the chain umbrella or moniker?
Well, I guess it's a little different if it's the moniker or the umbrella. So like if being part of a chain, if you want to go into a restaurant, typically and you're franchising, then you're going to, you're going to buy into a system that's already sort of developed. There's an operating model. There's a way of doing things. Depending upon the company, a lot of them will help you get started, design restaurants, design everything around that. Certainly there's something about a restaurant. I think usually it's one thing to have one restaurant And usually when you get to 2, you can handle that. But if you talk to most restaurateurs, once you start to get to that 3rd or that 4th restaurant, if you're an independent operator, then it's different. You can't be in every restaurant every time, and you're going to get more and more people. So you have to build a management structure. You have to build processes, and you have to build all those types of things. So I think from a perspective of a successful chain, what it's going to do is it's going to build in standardization. It's going to build in patterns and ways of doing things so that the product and the offering is consistent and is scalable. Whereas if you're just sort of opening one restaurant after another, each one's different. The menu's a little different in each place. Maybe the pits you cook on are different in each place. It's going to be very hard to keep scaling because now you have to have somebody in each restaurant who really knows the operation. And so I think what you find is any restaurant that starts to get up above a couple of units, a couple of locations, is going to have to start standardizing, is going to have to start bringing that kind of consistency to the operation and bring in managers so you can train new employees and teach them the craft without just watching over their shoulder all the time.
Do you have an opinion on franchise locations being more hit and miss on consistency and quality than a core location?
Not necessarily. I don't think I have a single opinion one way or another on that. I do know that with each company is a little bit different in the way they do it. Chick-fil-A is one example, which is here, based in Georgia, so here in the South. They don't like to have an individual franchisee to have more than one unit. Sometimes they can have 2. I think it's for that reason. They want to have the operator in the stores and very much involved. Other chains are different, and so a owner can have 4 or 5, 20, 30 restaurants. But at that point, now your franchisee is having the same problem that the chain itself does, which is now I have 30 restaurants. I now need managers, I need processes, I need HR, I need all those things that that come with scale. So I think that having the franchisee be closely involved, it can be a good thing. Anybody who's worked inside franchise restaurants will tell you, though, there's lots of conflict between the franchisees and the corporate restaurants the corporate restaurant wants to, usually have standardization and control the menu, control the decor and everything else. The franchisees think they know better than those pinheads in the corporate office, and they want to do it their own way. And now you get to the same inconsistency, and each place is different, that sort of, works against the advantages of having a standardized chain.
I was going to follow up and say, is that a con of being under the franchise confinements where an operator thinks, let's say an operator says, okay, well, I only have one location, and this specific one, they keep asking for X, and it's not on whatever the franchise is allowing. So you're either at that point handcuffed and you're seeing money that you just can't have because you're going to play by the rules, or you're going to decide to throw some of the playbook out of the window and bring in some new product and sell it because you're more of a bottom line person, which might get you in trouble or in some type of a violation of a franchise agreement.
Yeah, and I think the door swings both ways, right? So the franchisees think that they want to get all the benefits of having the chain and the standardization, but they think they know best, they know their market, and they want to be able to do things their own way. And you flip it around back to the corporate guys think, no, we know better. We can't have the franchisees wildcatting. And I think it gets at a certain point, you get back to where you are with independent restaurants, which is everybody thinks they know what they're doing when they're running the restaurant. They can't all be doing it right. So some of them are making mistakes, some are making the right call. And then you get the same inconsistency if you have too much deviation within the franchises that you do if you just drive down the road and pick any random, Joe's barbecue and pull into it.
So let's talk about the general John and Jane barbecue consumer. Do you think that they are able to tell if you walked into a restaurant and you weren't privy to a name or knowing if it's a chain or franchise or not, or just independent? Do you think the general John and Jane barbecue eater would know if they're at a chain or an independently owned position?
I think there's 2 factors to it. I think the market, I couldn't tell you what the ratio is, but I think it breaks into 2 camps. I think one camp probably doesn't know and probably doesn't care. What they're looking for is, oh, this looks nice and it looks like, it's clean, well lit, or, there's nice table tents and things like that. And this is what I like. And then I think there's a whole nother segment of barbecue consumer who if they think it's a chain, are going to already be negative predisposed to it, or if they go in and later find out it's a chain, they may actually be enjoying it up to the point where they say, "Oh, wait a second, this is a chain. I don't like it as much as I used to," because in their brain, the chain has a big impact. One of the curious things that's been happening in the barbecue world lately, just in the past 10 years or so, it used to not matter who was back in the kitchen, right, and who was back manning the pits in the back. The cooks weren't really famous. If you think about the barbecue empires from 20, 30 years ago, it was the restaurateurs whose names were on that. But just in the past 10 years, with the rise of craft barbecue, there's been this return to authenticity and to wanting to, know your pit master and have a face on there. So you got this interesting dynamic where the story is becoming very important. And I think that's sort of starting to work against the chains a little bit. And what you've seen is a lot of the big chains that were founded by somebody, the founder went away and then came back. They actually brought the founder back in. So I'm thinking of Sonny Tillman with Sonny's Barbecue, and Dave Anderson, Famous Dave of Famous Dave's. Both of them left the business and came back because it's good to have that face of the person that's in front of the chain, because people want that kind of authenticity and that kind of understanding, who's behind this name and who's doing the cooking.
Do you have a thought on who you think the most underrated barbecue chain is out there currently, and who the best is?
Oh. No, I really don't. I don't have the big chains, the really large ones, and that's sort of the dynamic of chain restaurant, right? It's going to be, you're not going to really get usually just terrible food that's going to poison you or anything like that. It's usually going to be pretty good quality, but it's not going to be great quality. Certainly, if you look at my top 50 list I did for Southern Living, there's not a whole bunch of chains on there. The ones that are on there are the ones that I would call sort of early stage proto chains. I think of Pat Martin's Barbecue Joint, which has about, I think he's closing in on 10 restaurants in a couple of states now.
Wow.
And that's one of the ones that, I would definitely, in my definition of a chain, and actually with Southern Living, I've been going back and forth with the editors trying to codify this definition a little bit to try to figure out what qualifies as a chain. Martin's Barbecue Joint would, but I still think they do a lot of things right, and they have a lot of character. And so I think that's one that I'm not sure if it's underrated, because I think it's pretty highly rated, but it's certainly of what I would consider the chain, that's what bubbles toward the top of my list.
Is Dickey's the biggest at this point?
I can't ever keep track. Dickey's is either the biggest. It certainly, I think, has it's been expanding rapidly overseas. Yeah. So it definitely has like the most countries under its belt. For a long time, Sonny's, which is based in Florida, was the biggest, but I think Dickey's has now eclipsed them. Famous Dave's is growing, and there's a lot of private equity money, or actually I guess they're a publicly traded company now, so they've been growing and expanding, but I don't think they're quite to the scale of a Dickey's yet. As far as I think Dickey's is the largest, but just by like store count.
Robert Moss joining us here on the show talking about chain barbecue. Anything else you want to add to the chain conversation before we move on to books?
Not too much, other than just I think it's a murky subject, and I encourage people to I try to keep an open mind myself, and I encourage people to keep an open mind when it comes to chains. But I do think it's just the dynamics are interesting of what happens when a restaurant, is trying to grow beyond 2 or 3 units, and somewhere between that 2 and 3 and the 20, there's an interesting little sweet spot of where you can grow and where you can't.
All right, so go ahead and hit up Robert Moss's website if you want some more info on chain barbecue, but we'll transition over to books. Springtime, early summertime is the wheelhouse for live fire cookbooks, and you see them come out by droves. Certainly this year, no stranger to a number of new books. Myron Mixon is out with a keto book. Rodney Scott's out with a book finally. Adrian Miller, who we both know and has been a guest a number of times here on this show, is out with a book that is doing exceptionally well. As you peruse the landscape of barbecue books that are live fire books this year, what sticks out? What do you like? What don't you like? What's a gimmick? What's not?
I'm not sure if I have anything I don't like per se, because I think there's a lot of the same. There's some interesting things I think that are happening this time around or this year. It's true that it seems like all publishers want to bring out their barbecue books in that late April, May timeframe, because it's barbecue season. And my first thought was, well, that doesn't make sense. People cook year round. But then also, the more you look at it, you realize that every May, all the editors in all the magazines are looking to do barbecue features. So if you have a book coming out right then, it's a great way to get press. Whereas if you bring one out in, say November, people aren't necessarily going to look for it. I think it's interesting the way that the books sort of follow the larger trends of what's going on, and you can sort of, it's tough because a book doesn't get published in three months. There's usually a 2 or 3 year process from the time that a publisher selects the book until the writer completes it and they get it through the publication process. But I think it does reflect some of the trends. One of the things I thought was interesting coming out this year, there's a Page Street Publishing brought out 3 books all at one time, and I think it shows just the way that I think the rise of the sort of branded barbecue equipment is really starting to shape the market. So these books are all sort of they're based around different things. So one of them, Adam McKenzie did a book called Weeknight Smoking on Your Traeger. So it's focused particularly on Traeger, and it has the subtitle Other Pellet Grills, but Traeger's in big letters. And then there's another one, Bill Gillespie, who's a well-known competition veteran, did a book on, I think it's called Hot and Fast, on your Weber Smoky Mountain cooker. So it's really for Smoky Mountain or similar bullet cookers. And then, there's another one that came out, same press, that is really about like the 4 fundamentals of smoking, and it looks at the different types of cookers. So those are being called out specifically, and I think the idea is that you've got a lot of people buying or getting these new cookers or grills for for either buying or giving as a gift, and then like, I need a book to sort of master that. And that happened last year as well. There are a bunch of books that came out that were focused on that. And curiously enough, I got hit up a couple of times from folks who say, "Hey, would you like to write a book on, cooking on whatever, a pellet grill or various models?" And I passed on them because that's just not my thing. But publishers are actively out looking for somebody. It's not like some guy sits there and says, "I really want to write the ultimate book on the Weber, the Weber kettle." Oftentimes it's Weber or whoever the manufacturer is who's actually going out and looking for someone to publish those books.
Is it a payday still or no?
I guess it depends on how you look at it. No one's getting rich off of those books. I mean, the best way to make money, selling cookbooks or selling books, is to become rich and famous and then write a book. And then you'll sell a lot of copies. But usually, I'm sure Myron's going to do well because he's so well known. But no, it's not a huge payday for somebody, but it'll pay the rent a little bit, and it may get you noticed and get to lead to other things. So it's usually more of a stepping stone than great, I published this one book and now I'm done for 5 years.
Robert, you got about a minute left. Let me ask you, as we transition out of here, BBQ Hall of Fame will be announced tomorrow. So in no particular order, of course, go ahead and give me your nominations. Yes? That sounds like a no.
My nominations, or just talk through who the 9 are?
Yeah, like who did you vote for?
My 3 picks.
Who did you vote for?
Oh, I can't reveal that. I'm sworn to secrecy.
Why not? Nobody cares. One vote. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything, right? I mean, you can tell us.
Well, if I was just a voter, but I'm on the
listening.
nominating committee, so I'd rather not.
Oh.
I'd rather not. But I'm happy to talk about
like who stands out. Who stands out to you? Or there's 6 of the 9 are repeats. Meathead's a 3rd Pete in a row, actually. Yep. So, I would say it's certainly admirable for those names to get renominated because they are thrown back into the main holding tank and then basically re-argued for. So there's obviously some type of deservedness there to get put back up.
Absolutely. And I think that what my biggest takeaway from the list is it's a strong list. I think it whittled down to 9 was really tough, and we really went back and forth on a lot of different things. I think if you look at the new names that are on this list, which I think is Ollie Gates, Ed Mitchell, and Joe Traeger.
Yep.
I mean, all 3 of those guys are legends, and so there's nobody on that list that I don't think anybody would say isn't deserving of being in the Hall of Fame. It's more just a question of, is this the year, or do they need to just hang around and they'll get it next year? So I think at this point, it's almost down to, it may be to like the full panel, who they know better or something like that, because I think from a quality standpoint, all 9 of those those finalists are any pick. You'd have to say, yeah, that's a pretty good class of inductees.
No doubt about it. We're talking with Robert Moss, the website robertfmoss.com. Check out the chain barbecue stuff that he wrote about, and be sure to tune in right here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern as the BBQ Hall of Fame class of 2021 is revealed. Robert, always appreciate the time and the insight and the research, and we'll do it again soon.
All right. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
You got it. There he is, Robert Moss, right there. Breaking it all down when it comes to chain barbecue restaurants. Did you know that there was that much information? Of course you didn't. That's why you're tuning in here to get the best info. I thought for sure I had him for like a hot second on revealing who he was going to put in for the BBQ Hall of Fame. But I know Derek Riches is going to tell me who he would put into the BBQ Hall of Fame because he's not on the names committee. He's not in the BBQ Hall of Fame, which is the travesty. So I know he's not voting. So he'll be happy to give me his thoughts. But first, I will tell you all the good things about Green Mountain Grills. As Robert Moss just talked about, pellet cookers are very popular. There are books dedicated to pellet cookers. I would imagine next year you will see a number of other barbecue books dedicated to pellet cookers. Green Mountain Grills are some of the best pellet cookers out there on the market right now. A couple different options. So if you want to save a couple bucks, you're a little bit of a frugal backyard warrior, go ahead and check out the Choice line. Now, it doesn't have all of the internal meat probes and the Wi-Fi connectivity and the app access and all this other stuff, but it's still very good on size. You have the Jim Bowie, that's the biggest one. You have Daniel Boone, mid-size. So if you want to save a few bucks, go Choice line. Now, if you want to amp it up a little bit, you have a couple extra bucks burning a hole in your pocket, you can go Prime Plus. It's got headlamps in the main cooking chamber. It's got a front shelf. It's a little bit more of a robust build on the chassis. You have peek-in windows on the main cooking chamber and the pellet hopper. 2 internal meat probes this time. Yes, Wi-Fi. Yes, app connectivity capability. You can increase and decrease the temperature of the pit if you want to. All through the app. All the good stuff there. That's the Prime Plus line. Selling through a dealer network. Forget about that rogue dealer that's on Costco. Go through the dealer network near you. Go to greenmountaingrill.com. Check out where the dealer is. Then go get educated, and away you go. Success right off the bat. They have sauces, rubs, and all the other stuff too at greenmountaingrills.com. So visit it, check it out, and go from there. It's Green Mountain Grills. We're back with Derek Riches right after this. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the BBQ Central Show.
This portion being brought to you by CookinPellets.com. We were just talking about Green Mountain Grills. You want some great wood pellets to fire that cooker? It's your number one source for quality wood pellets, CookinPellets.com. Visit that website and you can purchase or find out what else they have available to you. You can also buy at Amazon.com if you'd wish. It's the 4th Tuesday of the month, and that means it's time to go to the hotline and welcome in one of the most respected barbecue journalists in the biz, a BBQ Central Show guest Hall of Famer, to say the least. You can check him out on his site, DerekRiches.com. We welcome back Derek Riches. Hey, Derek.
Hey, Greg. How you doing?
I am fabulous, and I am excited to have you here for a couple different topics to talk about. Let's pick up where we left off with Robert Moss. Dr. Robert Moss. Am I talking with Dr. Derek Riches, by the way?
Not by a long shot.
Not by a long. We tried. You could have said yes. Everybody would believe you. Away you go. You never have to answer it again. I know if somebody said, is there a doctor on the plane, though, even if you weren't, you would leap into action to help out a fellow comrade. I mean, Robert Moss is just sitting there sulking and not helping anybody. How dare he? But nevertheless, let's start with some of the BBQ Hall of Fame stuff. As I'd mentioned, we're going to be revealing the 3 inductees tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern here along with Emily Park. So as you peruse the list of, let's call it the 9 finalists that make it through the big culling of names. And this year, I believe there were 65 unique names that were tallied. I think it was 165 or 170 total votes. So there was a number of folks that got nominated more than once or twice, however
Yeah.
you look at it. So as you look through that names list, who's standing out to you, or what do you think of that list? And then ultimately, what 3 would you put in?
Well, first of all, I'd like to agree with what, Dr. Moss had to say earlier, and that is that the 3 that got nominated this year, the 3 new ones, certainly kind of, big names, legendary people that probably should have been recognized a while back. My take on the list is, it's got a lot of great people on there. I'm going to go with, I think it's just Rodney Scott's year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he deserves to be there, and certainly, it's a big year for him regardless. So Rodney Scott, I think, honestly, I'm going to throw it to Leanne Whippet, because I think that, I think it's her time. She's done a lot, and, it's good to see that kind of representation, and needs to be reinforced. And just kind of from my own, work in kind of the history of barbecue and a lot of traveling and stuff, I'd like to throw it to Ollie Gates.
Oh, all right. So we got Ollie Gates, Leanne Whippen, and Rodney Scott as Derek Rich's pick. So we'll see in less than 24 hours.
Is that a good list? That's a good pick, isn't it?
Those are your pick. Hey, here's what I say. You have the balls to say it, then it's good enough for me. Not only is Robert Moss sulking away on the fuselage of an airplane with people dying, he won't even give me the names that he voted for. I mean, come on, what is he doing?
I am throwing names and doing surgery
and
on
you're
an
helping
airplane.
people. That's right. I mean, he's quickly working his way off the show. I figured we would maybe talk about some other subjects here, but then look at you posting about this best or most popular barbecue websites. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, let's not, there are certainly great websites on there, but
yes,
it's not necessarily a reflection of best. This is
most popular.
Most popular. And analytics.
Some people think
analysis.
that goes hand in hand. How do you differentiate?
I don't look at the top 10 songs right now, or the top 10 movies, top 10 TV shows.
Yes.
I think you'll find that many of them are not what we would call best. I mean, what was it? Kardashians are in season 20. So
best show ever.
Best and most popular are not necessarily the same, although I think there's a really great sites on this list. And, it was about 3 months work getting this together. As a matter of fact, my intention was to release it at the beginning of the month, kind of for Memphis, May is National Barbecue Month,
right,
sort of thing. But I wanted to run it back over with some analytics people I know to really make sure I nailed it down as best as absolutely possible. So,
So what's the impetus for writing this? I mean, it does appear that if people read it, they could casually read it like I did and just sub out popular and best, and all of a sudden we have a powder keg situation in a few different ways. So, why write it?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is that, I do consulting work with some companies, and some of the PR companies and marketing companies and stuff like this, they do this sort of analysis, and they have access to, these huge analytic systems like ComScore or what is it, Sisense, and some of those sort of things. And, sometimes when I'm brought in, I can use those analytics to kind of do analysis for them on trending issues and things of that nature. So, a lot of the companies already have this kind of information, but it's not out kind of in the general public, and it's not out amongst, the fellow content creators or, small businesses or in that range. And I just thought, I think that it's kind of important to show, where the traffic is going to, and, who has the sort of popularity in this area. And the other real reason for it is because the kind of shift we've seen, there has just been this explosion in the last couple of years into barbecue content and who's consuming it and how much is being consumed. it's a little early to say what the numbers are, and I've kind of heard this back and forth, but some are suggesting a 40% increase in barbecue and grilling product sales for last year, which would make it the fastest growing period in barbecue in possibly American history. So we have this huge flood of new people into the space. We've got a lot of young people coming in, a lot of novices coming in, and they are creating this huge shift, this big paradigm shift in where they're getting their information from, what content they're consuming. Now, this is just for barbecue sites, and I intentionally limit it by removing the corporate sites. So, no Weber, no Traeger, none of those. I removed the general recipe sites, the general cooking information sites. So kitchen and all recipes, take them out. So it's focusing specifically on barbecue sites. And I also removed, the forum sites, because it's more of kind of a collective effort, knowledge-based sort of thing. I was looking at the specific content creators who are generating a website and the kind of traffic that it generates. And, this comes up with some really interesting information because there is this shift that's going on, and it's both in gender and in generation. We have 4 women on this list now. Susie Bullock, who was on your show last week, is on there. Jess Prylis, who I know she appears on your show, she's in there. And so we have this kind of women content creators in barbecue becoming a much more dynamic and powerful force here. And a lot of these content creators are people in their, late 30s. So we're looking at also kind of a younger age here. And so we're getting much more kind of a millennial representation. And this is kind of reflected in kind of the way millennials consume this information. They access information a little bit differently. They're more likely to come in from a social media source. They're more likely to, peruse Pinterest looking for something that looks good and follow that route, or to come in from, like an Instagram or something like that. So I think that this is a really powerful shift in both the consumer of the data and the creators of the data, because people tend to they look for content creators that match their age, their lifestyle a little bit, that they feel comfortable with, that they feel like
relatable,
reflects them a little bit better. Yeah, it's that relatability factor. And so this, we've seen some of these sites exploding at rates 600-700% annual growth rates. And when I go back and I look at, search metric information or, really broad traffic information for some of the big corporate sites, or for just, the general categories of search information, the entire segment, the entire barbecue and grilling content online media is growing at a rate nearly 3-fold year over year, and has been for the last couple of years. And, some of this is pandemic. I mean, certainly last year we had this huge growth that way, but also the shift towards the pellet grills, the huge explosion in pellet grill sales, which has brought so many new people into the space. And so, I find this, really encouraging, because there was a debate for a while in kind of barbecue, and amongst on the business end and then the PR firms and stuff, was, is the barbecue community just kind of getting older? Isn't something that young people aren't as likely to take up or get involved with? And we're certainly seeing the opposite of that. We are seeing so many young people kind of coming in, and they're really shifting the narrative of barbecue, the way they consume information, the kind of information they look for, and the websites that they're going to. So, this is just kind of, this is, it's an amazingly dynamic and ever evolving landscape. We have to say, the rules just don't apply after a couple of years. What was cool 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and 20 years ago when I was starting out in this are just not the same today. And so many of these sites that have come up in here that have kind of jumped into the list in the last 2 years or so, they are, very savvy, very nimble. They are very, they're really good at search engine optimization. They're really good at social media marketing. They're really good at doing their own data analytics and kind of knowing what their audience is and what their audience wants. And another factor that I found is that there are, some of these sites, 4 to 8 years of age, they're comparatively small, that they're not as huge as you might think. That, some of the really, really big sites just have kind of lost that ability to be quickly adaptive, and that's kind of hurt them. So these newer kind of smaller sites, boy, they adapt very quickly. They change as they need to, and it's just become this huge model for success. So, I'm really encouraged by, what I've been seeing in the data, because I really see that there's a lot of growth, and it's bringing out so many more people in. And, a lot of people on this list, that's what they do. They really kind of introduce barbecue to a whole new group of people, which just makes a bigger pie for the rest of us. It just grows the table. We just get more and more people coming in, so that we all kind of have a potentially better audience space. That's just, I think it's great. And, just to say it, when running all the data, running all the analytics, and kind of confirmed across every single platform, Susie Bullock's Hey Girl Hey is the most popular barbecue site in the world. And it's kind of easy to see why. She has really capitalized on search terms and all that sort of stuff. But her Facebook group is about, her Facebook following is about, it's, in a huge number. Her Instagram following is gigantic. Her Pinterest, I think if she told Pinterest she was quitting, they would send someone by to ask why. She has so much engagement, and that's really the key here, is that when, it's like, okay, you got a lot of followers on Facebook, got a lot of followers on Twitter. Yeah, but is anyone engaging it? And her engagement numbers are just through the roof. People just jump in there. They comment on everything. They like everything. They share everything. And so it's just become a self-generating traffic engine. That's just, it's so impressive. It's just absolutely amazing to just look at.
Of the popular websites that you list out, do you touch base with any of them to say, hey, I'm putting this list together. Here's data that I have found through Alas, Alexa, SEMrush, blah, blah, blah. Do you have anything that you can also generate to me, whether you're using Google Analytics? Google Analytics is the thing to go to, if I'm not mistaken. But are they giving you some of their own raw data in the ways that you're searching out their popularity, like within those timeframes that you're doing?
Well, my initial data was collected from subscription services. I used free tools to demonstrate how you can get that information yourself, how you can kind of go in and look at the trackings. A lot of people who run websites kind of don't necessarily know what tools they can get for free. It gives them, some good things to point to. I did not go to the people on the list because I didn't want to bias the results, and I didn't want. Google Analytics is the tool that pretty much everyone uses to measure their own web traffic and gather all of that. It has its own margin of error, which is relatively small. But if I was in a situation of saying, hey, here's what I think your numbers are, they would either it's, I can't sit there and say, hey, give me your analytics password so I can go in and look myself. And I don't want to be in a situation of someone coming back and going, well, I can cherry pick my data, or I can just fudge it. I can just, send some screenshots and say, oh, look at this. This is in, what my numbers actually are. So that would have created a problem. And, the truth of the matter is that pretty much everybody that's on this list has already thanked me I've had a lot of, hey, this is great. I love that you did this. It's great to see somebody who can kind of come back and, understand how these metrics and analytics work. And, this is, of course, we already kind of knew this. So, thanks for putting it out in the public space, because, most people don't want to sit there and talk about your analytics. It's like, going into the grocery store and randomly telling people about your salary or, your taxes and stuff. It's not the sort of thing that most people really want to kind of share. Plus, that data, as it refines down, can become very revealing about how they pull this kind of traffic.
Derek Rich is joining me here on the show. The website, DerekRiches.com. And, of course, his picks for the BBQ Hall of Fame tomorrow, which have no bearing on what the actual results will be tomorrow at 3 p.m. Rodney Scott.
Absolutely
Leanne
no bearing
Whippen,
whatsoever. No one listens to me.
Ollie Gates. Yeah, right. You can, again, find Derek over at DerekRiches.com. And you can find him right here on the fourth Tuesday in the first hour of every month. Derek, always appreciate the time, and we will see you in June.
Oh, in answer to your question, the question that you didn't ask
about what
a hot dog is a sandwich unless it has ketchup on it. Then it's an abomination.
Then what about boiled hot dogs versus grilled? Do you care?
Is it boiled in beer?
No, boiled in water.
Boiled in water? No.
What about a 8 or 9 minute simmer in water, not boil? Make any difference?
That's what I grew up with, and I don't want to go back to my childhood.
And why is it a sandwich? Holding ketchup aside, why is it a sandwich? Why isn't it just a hot dog?
Meats and bread. Is a burger a sandwich?
I don't know. Look, there was a quite a fascinating conversation on BBQ's Clubhouse last week about, is a hot dog a sandwich? And, of course, me being the dick said, I think we need to figure out, forget about this, is it a sandwich or not? I think we need to define what is a sandwich, and then we can apply what we know a sandwich to be to then decide if hot dog is indeed a sandwich or if it's own thing. Now, 99% of people said hot dog is its own thing. I believe I was persecuted saying that I was mansplaining something. And all I said was, hey, all I'm doing is trying to figure out what the criteria of a sandwich is. So then I can go. But nobody had that definition readily available. So, I'm just the mansplainer as always.
It's one of the great mysteries of our time.
That's right. All right. So it is a sandwich for Derek Riches, sans ketchup. Otherwise, it is an abomination. Derek, always appreciate the time, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. See you in a month.
There he is, Derek Riches from DerekRiches.com. I am inclined to say that whether you like it or not, a hot dog is a sandwich, just like I would say a hamburger is a sandwich, because there's bread involved, which makes it a sandwich. I can also see the other side of the argument, which leads me to continue to say we need to figure out what the hell a sandwich is. I know who can do that. Robert Moss can do it. He'll be able to tell us what a sandwich is, and the next time he comes on, we'll put this baby to bed one way or the other. And once and for all, if you would like to say it in that way. I would like to say it that way. All right, before we get it over and wrap up the first hour, I want to talk to you quickly about Primo Cookers, a patented oval design offering true two-zone cooking. More than 60 cooking configurations available, made right here in the States. Precision-controlled manufacturing, highest quality ceramics used in these cookers. They have a new easy lift hinge, reduces the force to lift the grill head by 70%. Precision-controlled top and bottom air. Now in numbers. You can upgrade it if you have one currently. Go to your dealer, ask for the Primo Upgrade Kit. You can follow them socially. PrimoGrill.com is the website. Primo Ceramic Grill on Instagram, and Primo Ceramic Grills on Facebook. It's PrimoGrill.com. You got to get one. I got to get one too. We'll be back to wrap the first hour. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And this portion of the show being brought to you by Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, Fireboard 2 Pro. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. Connect to Wi-Fi for cloud-based monitoring, or connect via the Bluetooth. So if you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your home, you're in luck because Fireboard is fully integrated with both. You can find out more or buy by visiting fireboard.com or call them at 816-945-2232. That's Fireboard 2, Fireboard 2 Drive, and Fireboard 2 Pro. And we thank Robert Moss in the first interview segment talking about barbecue chains. We thank Derek Riches from DerekRiches.com. By the way, RobertFMoss.com is Robert's website. Derek Riches, DerekRiches.com is his website, talking about his most popular barbecue and grilling websites. Not best, popular. Maybe that changes things for somebody. I don't know. You can see Derek the fourth Tuesday of every month, and Robert Moss quickly working his way into a recurring segment as well monthly. Time will tell on that. Stand by. We are headed to the second hour, refresh libations, and we'll see you back here in just a few minutes. Stick around. We'll be right back.